long time ago, I used to know the one and the only Dude Love. Dude was not always the dude.
Not the dude?
He was once Mick Foley.
But then, how in the world did Mick Foley, perhaps the least desirable male of the past quarter century, become Dude Love?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wrestling Academy, a podcast all about wrestling history with no linear timeline or trackable syllabus. So, if you're a lifelong fan or you're brand new, this is the podcast for you. I am Samee Junio, your Homecoming King.
Ow! And I'm your Headmaster Michael Classic.
Have mercy.
Have mercy. If you're just tuning in, yes, we are the Wrestling Academy podcast where we talk about wrestling history, and we are currently on the road to getting 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if you could see this and you could get to YouTube and subscribe to us, we would really appreciate it. And as our gift to you, Homecoming King Samee Junio is going to put me through a table. Will they do a pile driver like
Maybe.
Cactus Jack did to Triple H? We'll see.
Maybe. Oh my gosh. That wasn't even a full table. I feel like it was just a board across legs.
Yeah, it was vicious, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But if you want to see me go through a table for real, hit the subscribe button, please.
And while we're asking you to please do stuff, please help us on our hunt for Ween Kid. We watched the Royal Rumble 2008. We were mesmerized by a special person in the background. We have tagged reels and TikToks on our profiles at Wrestling Academy Pod if you want to go see this person to help us find them. Leave us tips at our website, wrestlingacademy.university, or send us a voicemail at 708-669-4512. That is the Ween Kid tip line, 708-669-4512.
But that's the future. Samee, today we continue our month-long exploration of Mick Foley as we explore the often overlooked Dude Love persona.
So last week, we covered Mankind from 1996 to 1999. We're doing a little bit of a rewind for Dude Love's run in WWF, but it was a little bit important, we think, to have the context of Mankind for the debut of Dude Love in 1997. Before getting into all of that, let's talk about how the Dude Love character began. The story goes back to the mid-1980s when a young Mick Foley had a particularly bad date, and at the end of the date, the girl called him by the wrong name. Michael, what is the biggest reaction you've had after a bad date?
I remember I went on a date. It was like a blind date. A friend set the two of us up, and we went to a pizza place. And because I was on a date, I was like, you know what? I'm going to order just like one slice of pizza. I'm not going to get too full, and we're going to just like chat and get to know each other. And it was just one of those dates where we really did not match or mesh on any conceivable level. And it was just like pulling teeth for an hour and a half. But because I was eating a reasonable amount of pizza, I was also starving.
Oh, no.
So after I went on this date, that was a complete, not train wreck, but just whatever a boring version of a train wreck is. It was a boring train wreck that I went on, a train wreck of boredom. And as soon as she left, I walked home because I lived maybe 10 minutes away from the pizza place. And then when I got home, I ordered a large pizza and then ate more pizza after the date.
Mick, being the creative guy that he is, created a character called Dude Love. He's the epitome of what being a hunky guy is, an uber confident, unflappable ladies man. But Mick didn't stop at just creating a new persona. He wrote and starred in a home video called The Loved One. He got all his buddies in on it and included a couple of wrestling matches too. So, The Loved One 1985, chunks of this are available on YouTube. But if you just want to hear me break it down, here it goes. The movie begins with The Brothers Penis Present card, and I knew from that moment on that I was in for something of its time.
It really makes you feel like this was a movie made by high school boys.
Yeah, this was definitely a movie made by high school boys, but I'm still like just impressed by the production quality, the number of friends he got to do this, and what they were able to pull off, like multiple wrestling matches. Mick Foley, Dude Love, famously jumps off of a roof onto 2 twin mattresses and cardboard boxes during this. So it really is an impressive feat of home video-ness. But let's get into the story. It's a man's journey of self-discovery after a devastating situation that leaves him lost and suicidal. He becomes a wrestler called the Masked Debater and finds some success, but it's only fleeting. He then goes and finds the Grand Lizard of Wrestling, who teaches him how to be Dude Love, a cool cat who isn't bothered by anything and gets all the babes. Dude Love is unstoppable and incredibly popular and parties so much. In his travels, he befriends a band called the Brothers Penis. A member of the band dies, and Dude Love is left devastated. In his final match, he suffers an anus injury and flees to the woods, never to be seen again. And in the final shot, the movie starts with 2 people on a bench and they're talking. He's like, "Let me tell you the tale of Dude Love." And then it's sandwiched. So at the final scene, it's the same 2 characters, and it's revealed that one of the characters is the Grand Lizard, and they walk off into the distance, and then the camera pans up, and in the trees we see Dude Love.
Wow, okay, this is a kind of a twist ending to end.
It's a real twist ending. What I really appreciate it is that we can see Mick has a sense of humor outside of the dialogue and visual gags being 98% dick and balls jokes. It is clear that Mick is very clever. There's one scene in particular that made me laugh quite a bit where he's the masked debater at this point, and he's fed up with not being taken seriously, that he screams over and over again, "I'm not a dog! I'm not a dog!" And then one of his friends offers him a dog bone, and they go through like a little scene of like, "Oh, okay, sit. And then he eats the dog bone. It's like, all right, that's pretty funny. 1985.
And if you make 100 dick and balls jokes, one of them's got to be funny. And so it's like, so he's got a success rate of dog jokes. Seems like it's 100%. Dick and balls jokes, a little more hit and miss for Samee.
Just a tiny bit. But if you go and look for The Loved One 1985, in part 3, there are chunks of it missing audio. I think it's because of copyright reasons, but we'll link in the description of the podcast. I'm definitely probably missing some plot points because of those muted parts, and I'm definitely missing about 100 more dick jokes. But this was a movie made by a teen boy and his buddies in 1985.
And what's super interesting about Dude Love is, so this gets into Mick Foley's history. This was the original wrestling character that he wanted to be. And in fact, when he actually started getting into professional wrestling for real, the only reason he became Cactus Jack was to go out there, get a little bit of experience, get a little bit of seasoning as a wrestler. And then he was like, okay, once I kind of learned the ropes, then I'm going to debut as Dude Love, my real wrestling persona. So that was always the plan. And as you'll know, Samee, that is not how it went. As soon as he started wrestling as Cactus Jack took on a life of its own. And then by the time we get to 1994, he's in ECW. He gets the attention, 94, 95, he gets the attention of the WWF. Then he hops over, and then they make him become the Mankind persona. You'll remember from our last episode where we left things, Mankind was a super funny, super, more of an eccentric goofball, but where he started was super intense.
Yeah.
And pretty disconcerting, actually. I remember, like, in the episode, we sort of glossed over, like, well, how did he get from disconcerting to lovable goofball? And the years in between, this is what happened. And so the short answer is Dude Love happened, and that's how we got intense Mankind, and we came out the other end with lovable Mankind. So to get from Mankind to Dude Love, here's what happened. As you'll recall, in 1996, Shawn Michaels and Mankind were in a program. They had that really incredible match that we talked about. They were working a house show, and Samee will remember, a house show is sort of a non-televised, non-canon live event that the WWE puts on, and it's a way to just have a show for a live crowd and they can work out matches. They can do dream matches. They can be a little looser. They can have a little bit more fun. And so they were working a house show. And after the match, Shawn Michaels came up to Mick Foley and saw, he was seeing him in the Mankind getup doing the character. And Shawn Michaels was just like, hey, don't take this the wrong way, but is this what you always envisioned your career being? Did you want to be Mankind? Is this what you were going for? And then Mick Foley was pretty earnest with him back and said, truthfully, Shawn, I always wanted to be a character like Shawn Michaels. And then he starts talking about the Dude Love character that we were discussing earlier, and how he was a charismatic, smooth talking ladies man that was paying homage to some of Mick Foley's real life wrestling heroes from the 70s and 80s, guys like the Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant, or Superstar Billy Graham. And I just want to point out Superstar Billy Graham, because Sammy, you might not know this because you might not know who Superstar Billy Graham is, but if you were to look up a picture of Superstar Billy Graham, he might look strikingly similar to, Hulk Hogan. And it's almost as if Hulk Hogan bit Superstar Billy Graham's whole style.
Whoa.
Ripped it off wholesale. But
Yep.
hey, Mick Foley wanted to incorporate elements of those charismatic, smooth talking characters. And so that's what Dude Love was going to be in his mind. But then obviously his career went the direction it went. He got into hardcore wrestling, he got into deathmatch wrestling as Cactus Jack, a lot more hyper violent stuff than he ended up here. But as he was relaying the story of Shawn Michaels, right, we was talking about the home video that Sammy just described, the Penis Brothers, all that stuff. Somebody from WWE Creative overheard Mick Foley telling that story, and it struck a chord with him, and he took it all the way to the boss and said, listen, I think Mick Foley the man has a lot more of an interesting story than the fictional story that we've given to Mankind. And so I think we need to figure out a way to start incorporating the real elements of Mick Foley's story, and that will humanize the Mankind character more. And I think audiences will be able to fully embrace him. And so that's what they did. So we fast forward to 1997, and they have Mick Foley sit down with Jim Ross. They go all the way back to WCW, as you'll recall.
Mm-hmm.
And they do a series of in-character. So Mick Foley is playing the Mankind character, and they have a series of scripted interviews that are designed to have Mankind talk about Mick Foley's real life backstory, right? Talking about him being in WCW as Cactus Jack and getting into deathmatch wrestling, and then going back to who he always wanted to be and talking about Dude Love, talking about all that kind of stuff. And what they were doing was twofold. One, they were humanizing the character of Mankind, so he was just infinitely more relatable to the audience. But two, they were starting to plant the seeds of Dude Love, because one thing, when the boss heard that Dude Love was Mick Foley's dream character, he was like, okay, well, if this is this guy's lifelong dream, what if we could help him make this dream come true? So they planted the seed of Dude Love, and then that brings us all the way to July 14th, 1997, on an episode of Monday Night Raw.
So the match is between Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Owen Hart and the British Bulldog. At that point, Stone Cold did not have a tag team partner, and this match was for the vacant WWF World Tag Team titles. And in the weeks before this match, Mankind was hardcore campaigning to be Stone Cold's new tag team partner. He was showing up to matches with a Pick Me Steve sign. And after a while, Steve Austin takes the bait. He stands in the middle of the ring after an interference helped him win against Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Mankind, the original Pick Me. Who knew?
Come on. Steve tells Mankind, "You come out here every week saying, 'Pick me, Steve, pick me, Steve. I'll lay it on the line for you, you piece of trash. You shake my hand, and we're a tag team.'"
I just want to point out for the audience that Sammy has been working really hard on their Stone Cold Steve Austin impression, and I just wanted to hats off. I heard the work you're doing, and it's
you.
great. Started to tilt a little Louisiana is the southern you're doing. So
Sure.
we were heading towards Texas, and we took a left, and we ended up in Louisiana.
You piece of wait, what is Louisiana versus Texas? Now I have to start all over. Hold on. You come out here every week. I see now.
It's a little bit more.
A little bit more lasses in the back.
Yeah, a little bit more of a. Well, I do say, don't trust anybody.
Well, I declare you're a piece of trash.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, we're not in Texas anymore, Dorothy.
Oh, man. I totally lost Stone Cold. You come out here every week. Say, pick me, Steve. Pick me, Steve. I'll lay it on the line for you, you piece of trash. There you go. We got him. Mankind, after this big, sweaty hug, turns around in celebration, and he gets his ass stone cold stunned. Classic Steve Austin says, DTA, you stupid piece of trash. I'm never going to be in a tag team with you. You're trash and you suck. Why did I lose it all?
I in my mind, I keep trying to go back to Louisiana, Austin now. It's just like, well, I say.
Well. Look at what we have here.
Don't trust anyone,
DTA.
Mr. Mankind.
Suspenders. So classic Steve Austin says, DTA, you stupid piece of trash. I'm never going to be in a tag team with you. You're trash and you suck, I do declare. And Mankind is super hurt. And he's like, I was looking for a friend and you ruined that all. Next week, I'll have to do something that I thought I'd never have to do again. And WWF will never be the same. You, Steve Austin, will never be the same. And Mankind will never be the same. So we cut to this match, July 14th, 1997, Monday Night Raw. Steve Austin is facing Owen Hart and the British Bulldog, where we're promised a teammate reveal for Stone Cold sometime during the match. Stone Cold obviously is a great wrestler. He holds his own for a pretty long time, and after he sends both guys over the ropes, music hits the speakers, and the Titantron lights up with the image of a man in sunglasses with a tie-dye headband and a tie-dye shirt and a tie-dye thing on his hand that makes two fingers into one mega finger. Impression time. Ow, Steve-O, looks like you could use a little help. Maybe a tag team partner? Ooh, what's the matter? You don't recognize me, I do declare. Now, I don't blame you for not teaming up with that mutilated freak Mankind, but you never said anything about teaming up with the hippest cat in the land. Steve-O, baby, it's me, Dude Love, and I'm coming to save the day. Ow, have mercy. And then we hear some Bee Gees type vocalization as a Miracle in tie-dye and blue pants and white boots struts down the ramp. He dances into the ring until Owen Hart stops the party. Stone Cold tags him in immediately to see what he can do.
First of all, another fantastic impression, Samee. But
I was doing so good until we started this recording. Let's just be real.
Okay, so when no one else was around, you were nailing these impressions. Okay, great.
Yeah.
What I thought was so interesting about this story beat, and it's something they sort of address, but they never fully lean into, but this is kind of the first time that they hint that Mick Foley has these personas inside of him. And so this is the first time that it's ever become clear that I think they've never formally stated that the character Mick Foley has dissociative identity disorder or anything like that. But that is definitely the trope that they lean into, where it starts to become when Mick Foley needs to, he will reach into different aspects of himself and become these fully fleshed out, fully realized characters. So the rejection was so great for Mankind that he needed to reach into the part of himself that was just pure charisma and then outstrutted Dude Love. Ow!
Ow!
Samee, how did you find this match? How did you find Dude Love in action?
It wasn't too long before they win the match. Basically, Mankind does a mandible claw on the British Bulldog, and through the research that we did, I heard that initially they wanted to call it a dude glove instead of a mandible claw, which I love. Ow! And we get a classic Stone Cold slipperoo where he slipped in and stunned Bulldog while the ref was turned around, and Dude Love was able to get the pin for the win.
If you watch, I believe it's Beyond the Mat, there is a section where he's debuting the Dude Love character for the first time. So you see the backstage of it's never felt more like being in a high school theater where you just watch a lot of people kind of getting into character and running around. And then you sort of see a very nervous, excited Mick Foley being like, yeah, I feel like the Dude Love character is kind of like this. And it's like you could see him sort of workshopping it, and he's talking to Shawn Michaels a little bit. And I don't know. It's just a very sweet. I always forget. I know South Park has made this episode before where they really compare the WWE to theater acting, but it was just really sweet and vulnerable. And if you ever have time to check out Beyond the Mat, definitely stop before you get to the Rock chair shots part, but like definitely watch the cute, uplifting Dude Love section.
We'll put the clip in so they have that condensed clip.
So as we said, Dude Love, Stone Cold, they win the match. They become the tag team champions, and they are riding high until a month later in an infamous incident that happened August 3rd, 1997 at SummerSlam. Stone Cold Steve Austin is fighting Owen Hart. They go to do a pile driver to end the match, and it is just like one of the most brutal mistakes you've ever seen in a match where, so the way the pile driver works, right, is you sit down and you're holding your opponent's head in between your legs. But when they go down for the pile driver, Stone Cold Steve Austin's head slips fully under Owen Hart's legs. And so he is just fully, without protecting himself, full body landing directly on his head. He breaks his neck and is temporarily paralyzed in the ring. Now, when we say temporary, he did not know that he was not paralyzed from the neck down until like days later. So in the course of this match, it is scripted that Stone Cold Steve Austin is going to win, but when the ref comes down, he's like, I can't move. I don't know what to do. Like his whole body was numb. He couldn't move it. And so they jerry-rig a whole thing. And to add insult to injury, the stipulation of this match was if Stone Cold Steve Austin lost, he was going to have to kiss Owen Hart's ass. Like that was the storyline. So in the midst of this really goofy thing, so to buy time, Owen Hart has to parade around the ring and be like, Steve Austin's about to kiss my ass. And it's like,
oh my God.
But meanwhile, Steve Austin's like, I think I'm fucked. I think I'm absolutely fucked. So they manage a way. And I mean, Stone Cold Steve Austin, ever the professional, is like, look, it was a pretty ugly looking roll up, but I rolled him up and they got me to the back. And then luckily he was able to recover and he was able to like regain functionality in his body. But this singular accident altered the course of Stone Cold Steve Austin's entire career. It made it so that he would have to retire at 38. So in 2003, because of the injury he sustains here in 97, that's why he has to go out. He also has to fully change up his style, and he becomes more of a hard hitting striker brawler kind of guy, which absolutely feeds into the Stone Cold Steve Austin character. So it ends up being a little bit of a blessing in disguise because he has to change up his style because he can't do the stuff he used to do because of his neck issues. It goes on to propel him into superstardom. But in the short term, we don't know any of that stuff. And so Stone Cold Steve Austin, they have to vacate the titles, and Stone Cold Steve Austin is gone for, I think, a couple weeks or months where he has to get neck surgery. And in that intervening time, his tag team partner, Dude Love, gets into a little feud with Hunter Hearst Helmsley, who is starting to shed his blue blood gimmick and is starting to become a little bit more of his D-Generation X persona.
So it's December 22nd, 1997. It's Monday Night Raw. Also, I'm pretty sure, even though this is only 2 months after Stone Cold's big accident, but he was definitely featured in this episode. Not wrestling, but he just like never took a break.
Exactly. And so that's what I mean, where it's like he went in, he got the surgery, and then he had to stay not super. He was still on TV. It was in the same way that it's that old school mentality that we were talking about when Undertaker broke his orbital bone and was just like, oh, just give me like a protective mask to wear and I'll just keep wrestling. So instead of being off TV, Stone Cold Steve Austin came back almost immediately, and they had to find other ways to utilize him before he could
Sure.
fully get back into wrestling again.
The dedication is wild and a little bit stupid. Anyways, let's talk about this match between Hunter Hearst Helmsley and Dude Love. It's a Falls Count Anywhere match. So Hunter is supposed to be facing Dude Love, but Dude Love appears on the Titantron and starts talking about how a Falls Count Anywhere stipulation ain't his bag, baby. Ow. So Dude Love welcomes Mankind to the Love Shack in this like interview style hangout. In some It Takes Two CGI, the two of them talk about how there's another man who wants to hurt Hunter more than Mankind and more than Dude Love. It's Cactus Jack, and Cactus Jack pops up into the screen. So now it's all three faces of Foley on the Titantron before the Cactus Jack theme song hits. And we see various weapons thrown from behind the curtain before the demented man storms through them, already holding a steel trash can. And the crowd bursts into some ECW chants.
I don't know if you felt this, Samee, but watching that pre-taped segment where it is some very funny split screen technology where it's just figuring out how to have all three of them in the same frame at the same time. But that's where it really hit me that Mankind is so distinct from Cactus Jack, and they're so distinct from Dude Love. And so as goofy and as strange as these characters are, they really were pretty fleshed out in a way that I really hadn't considered. Like, it's one of those things you hear about the three faces of Foley, and it wasn't until I saw a pre-recorded segment that had all three of them in it where I was just like, oh, holy shit. Like, they all kind of sound so distinct from each other. I don't know. I didn't put that together until I saw the thing. Did you have that same experience, or did they all just kind of seem like Mick Foley to you?
I mean, they definitely don't seem like Mick Foley, even just in the costuming. So Mankind, he's all brown. Cactus Jack, he's all black. And then Dude Love,
he's all tie-dye.
Yeah, he's all tie-dye. And I think those distinctions are helpful. And then, Mankind, he wants to be as small as possible. So he's hunched over, he's swaying. He's like just this tiny thing.
I really thought you were about to be like, I say.
I do declare there's somebody else who wants to hurt you more,
and then Cactus Jack is just like,
he's like big and crazy. Well, I do say, Hunter Helmsley, you're about to be brutalized by somebody else.
Bang, bang, Mr. Helmsley, bang, bang.
Dude Love, he's lounging, he's hanging out, he's unflappable. He's Dude Love, he's a safe sex symbol. And then Mankind is in the chair next to him, and he's like small and swaying and demented and weird. And then like Cactus Jack pops up like out of focus, ready to kill somebody. So there are definitely just like three very separate characters.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just one of those things, right? Because whenever I think about, because when you think about what makes a really good Mankind promo, it's the warbling voice, the sort of voice cracks that he has in it. But when Cactus Jack gets really worked up, he does that too. But for me, the energy was just totally different. Even the way they do their voice cracks feels different to me, where you're just like, oh, Cactus Jack would never do half of the things that Mankind does. Like, I understand what the distinctions are when in future feuds, he decides when and how to switch between them. It actually does make sense to me. And I don't know, it's a thing I had never fully thought about until we started breaking it down.
Would you say that those differences, those stark differences are clear when they're in the ring? Like the in-ring style is different?
Sometimes. So yeah. I think to me, and I'll be upfront, and I think Mick Foley is also pretty upfront about this. I think the least defined, because if you look at the career, right, he was Cactus Jack for 10 years, he was Mankind for 2 years, and then he was Dude Love for maybe a year tops, and then he returns to Mankind for the bulk of his career and is sporadically Cactus Jack. So, he's got like 10 years of experience between Mankind and Dude Love, whereas Mankind and Cactus Jack, whereas Dude Love only has the 1 year to sort of figure out what he wanted to be. But I think Dude Love in ring borrows very heavily from Cactus Jack. I noticed just a lot of the in-ring style, whereas I feel like Mankind felt separate because again, I think to me, Mankind steps in when he knows he's going to have to take a lot of punishment, and Mankind enjoys that. And when he needs to inflict punishment, that's when Cactus Jack steps in. And so they have similar move sets, but the psychology behind why they're doing what they're doing just seems to spring out for me. It's defined. Whereas I think Dude Love is sort of halfway between the two, but he's closer to Cactus Jack than he is to Mankind. Sure. And so I do think the moveset borrows pretty heavily, where it's like it would get into him in matches sometimes, and I would just be like, oh yeah, this feels like Cactus Jack wrestling to me. Without the looking for weapons. It would just be like, oh, if we're just going to keep this...
He's looking for ladies. Ow.
Yeah, it's like we're keeping it clean, in ring, and we'll have the dudettes come to ringside. Oh, that was another thing about Dude Love, is he started having ladies accompany him to the ring, and so he would, they would be groupies who were all super into Dude Love, and I just thought that it was very sweet that one of the early dudettes was actually his wife.
Yeah, I mean... We didn't get to it, but in the Beyond the Mat clip that we're talking about, the dudettes that came out for Dude Love on his debut were not his wife, and we see him on the phone, like, kind of apologizing to Claudette, like, "Oh, I'm sorry, that just wasn't planned. I wish those kisses were from you." And then cut to now she's a dudette. I was like, yeah, sure, that makes sense. A little jealousy there.
I thought it was sweet, and
I think it's sweet, yeah.
I think it's great that he was just like, I'm accompanied to the ring by the sexiest women ever, so I got to get my wife involved. And it's like, that's cute.
Wife.
That's very cute to just be like, when I think of the person I love the most, well, I got to have my real wife there.
What a sweetie. All right, let's get back to Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
This match is so awesome. And I was telling you before we started recording that the endorphin rush that I feel every time any of the Mick Foley personas mention that they're going to have to become Cactus Jack once again, the endorphin rush of when you hear that riff and then you see him come out to the ring, I found myself being like, I swooned. And so he just throws the trash can through the curtain, and he's just coming out with like a metal pipe, and he's just fully like, I'm coming for you, Hunter. And you're just like, woo! And so he immediately starts ripping the floor pads up, and then he chases Hunter all around the ring. He chases him back to the exposed concrete before he hits a neck breaker on him. And then he just starts laying in, shots with a mop, shots with a chair, shots with a trash can. He hits his old school Cactus Jack finisher, which is the flying elbow on the outside of the ring. He hits that on Hunter on exposed concrete, onto a trash can. They just really get their super violent money's worth out of that Cactus Jack persona. And it really did feel like an escalation where he's kicking him over the barricade and he's throwing stuff, and there's just trash and bent metal flying everywhere. And at the very end, he ends up it's a false count anywhere. So he ends up beating Hunter all the way up the entrance ramp. And they set up just the least safe looking table I've ever seen in my life. It is just bending as soon as they get up on it, and you're like, this is going to go at any second. You see Cactus Jack hit a pile driver through the table onto the metal grate below, and it's one of those things that looks so gnarly. It takes them both out, and as they're pushing it, he falls and he's knocked out, but his arm lands on Hunter, and it gets the 1, 2, 3. And as they're pushing in at the end of this match, you just see he's hurt, he's beat up, but he's just got this like toothless smile on his face where he's just in absolute euphoria. And as the camera comes in on it, like pushes in on his face, he's completely upside down, and he looks right at the camera and goes, bang, bang. And that's like the end of the match. And I've got goosebumps right now. It's so, Cactus Jack is so scary, dude.
I love him so much. What's funny to me is when at the beginning of the match, before it starts, when Dude Love pops up on the Titantron, Hunter is like wrapping his arm in chain. He's like, ready. It's like, you're not ready, dog. Cactus Jack is coming for you, bro.
And another thing that I thought was really cool,
Mhm.
and I had never considered it until we started doing this deep dive, but later in their career, Mick Foley and Triple H get into a very heated rivalry where they have a Hell in a Cell match.
Mhm.
And it's the same sort of thing where Mick Foley's like, look, I don't know if I have what it takes to beat you, but I know somebody who does. And then he
Yep.
reveals that it's Cactus Jack. I mean, I thought that that was cool when I was a kid, but I didn't have this specific context of like, Triple H has fought Cactus Jack before, and it did not go well for him.
No,
And
it
so
went
there's
really
like an
bad.
added layer of this is a bag he's reached into for Triple H before. And so when you
Mhm.
see it 3 years later, I don't know. I just think it's always really cool how there's such a deep history of wrestling to pull from that they are planting some seeds for a rivalry that they can then harvest 3 years later. I just thought that was awesome to see.
I love that. And we do cover that rivalry in our Hell in a Cell episode where we break down those matches in great detail.
Yeah, those matches, that whole feud, we get into that in our Hell in a Cell episode.
So now we're at October 20th, 1997 on an episode of Monday Night Raw, Dude Love versus British Bulldog. Dude Love makes his way down the ramp, and when he gets there, it's not the British Bulldog's theme song that comes up. It's fucking Kane, dude.
No.
So Kane comes out and destroys Dude Love for about 5 minutes and then just walks off.
And what's noteworthy about this match is I was listening to Foley's pod and they were talking about this match specifically. Kane choke slammed Dude Love so hard they dented the entrance ramp, which is just straight up made of metal. So even though I would say Dude Love, he doesn't get as crazy or as hardcore as the other two personas, but he's still out here denting entrance ramps. So he still goes for it, even when he's Dude Love.
Yeah, the dude still gets dropped a bunch.
So I think at this point, Dude Love is just like fully flourishing. He's like growing. I think people are starting to get more of a sense of Mick Foley's personality through the Dude Love persona. And so I think it's just, it's helping Dude Love get popular, but it's also just helping people like Mick Foley, which I think was super important. And so, he's been Mankind. He's been Dude Love. He's gotten to now be Cactus Jack. He's gotten to be the character that he created in the WWF. He got to be the character that he made popular in WCW and ECW in Japan and death matches. And now he got to be the lifelong childhood dream character he's always wanted to be. And I think all of that stuff is really great. But he's never had a match where he's gotten to be all three because that would be impossible, right, Samee?
Cut to January 18th, 1998. It's the Royal Rumble. Cactus Jack comes out as number one, wielding not one, but two metal trash cans, and Chainsaw Charlie, aka Terry Funk, is number two, complete with a working chainsaw, and it is going while he makes his entrance and when he stays into the ring. When he gets into the ring,
sparks are flying off of it and shit. It is so it's like it's like the Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre comes out. It's like
right. It's not
wild.
It's fucking scary, and we haven't really seen Terry active in the WWE yet, right? In the Research for Wrestling Academy. So seeing him like this, Terry, relax, guy. It was scary. It was really scary. And I'm thankful that Cactus Jack foils his chainsaw massacre dreams by hitting him really hard with a chair, and then the referee just slides in and like gently takes it out.
We're just gonna get that out of here because I think that was the thing that maybe they hadn't considered when they let Chainsaw Charlie be in the 1998 Royal Rumble is, okay, he's got a chainsaw and all the other people are just wrestlers. What are we doing?
Like 8 to 10 men in the ring in like 5 minutes. You guys should have thought that out a little bit, but thankfully the ref was there.
Yeah, Samee, would you try to get into the Royal Rumble if you were walking down the ramp and the opponent and they're just at a chainsaw? Would you be like, I think I could still win? Or would you be like, yeah, I quit. I don't want to.
I would wait.
That's the difference between you and me. You would scheme and you'd be like, I'm sure he'll get kicked out eventually. Yeah. Whereas I'm immediately just like, I'm gonna go get dinner. I don't want to fight this guy.
No thanks. You'll Drew
You could
Carey
pay me
yourself.
$1 billion. I would not fight a guy with a chainsaw. No way.
But it's gonna get taken away eventually.
But Cactus Jack didn't have a choice because he was in the ring first. Chainsaw Charlie comes in so he has to deal with the chainsaw immediately.
And he does. He smashes him with the chair. Chainsaw Charlie drops the chainsaw, and then they sword fight with chairs a little bit before Chainsaw Charlie lifts his mask up and tries to make an appeal to the softer side of Cactus Jack. Doesn't he know this guy? There's no softer side. So Cactus Jack was the second man eliminated in this Royal Rumble at the hands of his own tag team partner. 16 minutes later, Mankind stumbles down into the ring as entrant number 16 with eyes only for Chainsaw Charlie. I wonder why. He immediately gets his revenge and starts going for The Rock. So Mankind gets dragged over the top rope by a blue-haired, red-faced Goldust. Jerry the King Lawler and JR spent most of the Rumble speculating and maybe even daring Stone Cold to come out. He was supposed to come out as a 20-second entrant, but instead, nobody came out when the air horn popped on. So everyone's a little confused at this point. We get 2 more entrants, and then the air horn blasts, and we get that sweet, sweet sound of shattered glass. And all of the remaining people in the ring turn to the ramp, and Stone Cold's theme plays, and Stone Cold shows up behind everybody. He slides in and he starts eliminating everybody left and right. And 18 minutes after Mankind gets eliminated, Dude Love comes dancing down the ramp. The match gets down to 4 men. The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Farouk, and Dude Love. A motley crew, some would say.
I know one person who would say that.
Me, I do declare. So, Farouk takes care of Dude Love, only to be eliminated by his old stablemate, The Rock. Stone Cold tosses The Rock, Foley bodies him over the top rope and wins all the marbles. Now we have Stone Cold with a match at WrestleMania.
Woo!
Ow!
And in this intervening time, so the main event is set. So Dude Love is going in one direction, and then after this tag team breaks up, right, Stone Cold just keeps going higher and higher and higher. And so we get to WrestleMania. Stone Cold Steve Austin is in the main event. He's going after Shawn Michaels for the WWF Championship. Mike Tyson's involved. It's a whole crazy spectacle. Lower on the card, Dude Love has sort of been he's been experimenting with all 3 of his different personas and when to bring them out. So he's rarely Dude Love at this point. He's leaning more into his Cactus Jack persona. And so at this point, Cactus Jack, Chainsaw Charlie, they defeat the New Age Outlaws in a dumpster match, which, Samee, the stipulation of that is to win, you have to put your opponent into a dumpster. And this match is so wild. They are brawling all outside they're brawling all over the arena. This is years before they do the empty arena match, but they are really exploring the space. It ends with Cactus Jack throwing the New Age Outlaws onto a forklift and Chainsaw Charlie being like, ah! And he's just driving the forklift to a huge dumpster that's just in the arena that's so far away from where they started, and he's doing this thing, he's cranking it, and then you just see the forklift kind of bend, and you see both New Age Outlaws like total goofballs just being like, and then they fall in.
Oh my god.
Cactus Jack slams the lid, and then Chainsaw Charlie pops down the forklift on top of it and pins them in there, and then Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie become the tag team champions at WrestleMania. But it's very short-lived. The New Age Outlaws, true to their outlaw name, do the most New Age outlaw shit possible, where they go to the officials and dispute the title win on a technicality because they used the wrong dumpster. Outlaw shit. So then Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie get stripped of their titles. New Age Outlaws end up picking them up a little bit down the line. But
what the fuck?
The most important thing that's coming out of this feud is Stone Cold Steve Austin beats Shawn Michaels and becomes the WWF champion. And in the storyline, the owner of the company is furious that a beer drinking, blue collar working man is the top champion of the WWF. And this sparks one of the most legendary feuds in Stone Cold Steve Austin's illustrious career.
Hell yeah.
So coming out of WrestleMania, Stone Cold Steve Austin is the champion. And for weeks after WrestleMania, so that WrestleMania was in March, it's about 2 weeks later, April 13th. Austin has been taking pot shots at the boss man, basically being like, I know you hate that I don't wear a suit. I know you hate that I love to curse and I love to drink beer and that I love the fan. And everybody's like, is freaking out. And so he's basically like, and every time you talk to me about what you think a WWF champion should be, it always sounds like you're describing yourself. And so I'm going to give you exactly what you've been dreaming of, sir. And so Stone Cold Steve Austin goes, how about tonight, him and his 53-year-old boss get in a one-on-one fight for the WWF title. And Austin is so confident that he'll win. He says that I can even beat you with one arm tied behind my back. So that is the exact stipulation we have going into this match. They get a piece of string and they tie Stone Cold Steve Austin's arm behind his back. And then he's about to fight a 53-year-old man who up until this point has not wrestled ever. Nobody knew that he was a wrestler at this point. And so you're just watching him about to fight. And right as the match is about to start, Stone Cold, he's got his one arm tied down. As soon as it starts, you hear that Bee Gees music playing. And Dude Love comes strutting down to the ring and he goes, ow, have mercy. Can't we all just get along?
Oh my God.
And everybody's immediately just like, what's going on here? And he's just like, let me talk about the one man who can bring some love to the war zone. And he's like, look, I know Stone Cold, we go way back. But the guy you're in the ring with right now, he cuts the checks that allows the dude to live the lifestyle that he's grown accustomed to.
Wow, he's sold out.
And so wriggles his way in the ring, and everybody seems confused that Dude Love is there. Everybody's like, why is this dude here? So people get mad, and they kind of start, the owner pushes him a little bit, and then that pisses Dude Love off. And so he pushes him into the corner, and he just starts doing the mandible claw on the owner of the company. And while that's happening, Stone Cold Steve Austin, still with one arm tied behind his back, comes over to check on it. And then Dude Love immediately turns and puts the mandible claw on Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh, no.
And the whole match is ruled like a no contest. It's like a DQ victory. And so for the next couple of weeks, everybody's really confused as to why Dude Love did what he did. The owner's like, I didn't have anything to do with this. Like, he's not my champ. I didn't put him up this. Whereas Dude Love has gone on this whole delusional streak. And he was talking about how his main man, Steve-O, he was always jealous of the dude's prowess with the ladies. He was always jealous of how Dude Love was a better tag team partner in their month-long tag team that they were in. How he carried them for a month to victory time and time again. It becomes very clear that Dude Love is in the pocket of the owner of the company, but everybody is insisting for weeks that they are not in cahoots. They are not working together. Even though after Dude Love jumps Stone Cold Steve Austin, he mysteriously gets a title shot at the upcoming event In Your House Unforgiven. It's a match that the owner becomes so interested in. He says, I'm actually going to be at ringside just to make sure everything goes how it's supposed to. But Austin is smart and he senses that this is all a huge setup. So we go 2 weeks later, April 26, 1998, In Your House Unforgiven. It is Dude Love versus his former tag team partner, Stone Cold Steve Austin, for the WWF Championship. This is a fun match, but it is completely overshadowed by the storyline of what's going on at this time. As you'll recall, in 1997, there was the infamous Montreal Screwjob where Bret Hart got screwed out of the title by Shawn Michaels, and the owner of the company was sitting at ringside. And this was not a storyline incident. This happened for real. So here we are about a year later, and they are now turning the Montreal Screwjob, or the threat of the Montreal Screwjob, into a storyline. So the owner is standing in the wings and he's waiting for Stone Cold Steve Austin to make one mistake so he can ring the bell and Dude Love will be declared the WWF championship. And so Dude Love, he's not concerned with being a corporate stooge. He comes to the ring in like a tie-dyed headband and Mardi Gras beads. And everybody at this point, they were fans of Dude Love at the beginning, but now that he's sold out, he's like the corporate stooge, everyone's booing him. And he responds just by dancing in the face of everybody who's like booing him. And it is just a very funny cognitive dissonance heel where he thinks he's doing the right thing. He thinks he's a good guy. He thinks he's the dude, but everybody's thinking you screwed over Stone Cold. So like, fuck you, man. I don't want to deal with you anymore. And so like while they're doing this match, it just becomes abundantly clear that the owner is going to screw over Stone Cold Steve Austin. And it's a fun match. It's got, again, I would say in ring, it feels a lot more like vintage Cactus Jack than it does a brand new character. But I think that's all right. At a certain point, the referee gets knocked out, which means all hell is allowed to break loose. So they're fighting, they're going outside. The Stooges are getting involved. They get chairs. They start hitting Stone Cold with the chairs. Stone Cold gets pissed off. And at a certain point, he picks up the chair. He's going for what looks like a swing at Dude Love, but at the last possible second, he adjusts his trajectory and hits the owner of the WWF, a 53-year-old man, directly in the head with a steel chair. And I'm not generally a fan of unprotected chair shots, but if ever I thought one was pretty cool, it was this one in particular. Seeing this particular guy get an unprotected chair shot to the head, let's just say it hit just right, Samee.
Hell yeah, dog. Hell yeah.
So Austin hits the boss with the chair, meaning no more shenanigans can happen. He rolls Dude Love into the ring, delivers a Stone Cold Stunner. He goes to pin Dude Love. The referee's still knocked out. So what does Austin do? He counts 1, 2, 3 himself. And Samee, they ring the bell.
I love
and they
that.
play his music. And Stone Cold Steve Austin walks out with the title, which is a move I've never seen somebody do before, where they're just like, there's no referee. No, I'll just be the referee. So
that's crazy.
That. And then they're loading everybody up on the stretcher. And then you can hear the owner, he's like muttering to something. And then they get over the God mic and they declare that because Stone Cold Steve Austin has hit a WWF official with a chair, Stone Cold Steve Austin has been disqualified.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
Meaning, Dude Love wins, but because it was via disqualification, champion's advantage, Stone Cold loses, but doesn't lose the title. But that means they're set up for a rematch a month later. In the intervening month between Unforgiven and their next bout at Over the Edge, Dude Love goes full corporate stooge and he stops wearing tie-dye. He starts wearing suits. He doesn't have his hair be long and flowing anymore. He puts it in a ponytail.
God forbid he gets a haircut.
Deep down, he's still the dude, but he's the corporate dude. So he stops talking like the hip cat we know him to be, and he's just a lot more like, hi, how's it going? How's it going? I'm Dude Love. And worst of all, you know how Mick Foley is missing teeth from his years of deathmatch wrestling? Corporate Dude starts wearing false teeth.
Oh, man.
So he'll just smile and point to his full row of front teeth, being like, hey, what do you think? And people are mad. They don't like that anymore. They liked Toothless Dude. This is a bizarro funhouse mirror of his 1994 ECW anti-hardcore run. This is anti-love, Dude Love. And they're running back this same kind of, they're sort of recycling the beats 4 years later for this storyline. So walking into In Your House, Over the Edge. So before the match even starts, they are all being so cocky. They cut this promo where the owner is basically just like, if Stone Cold Steve Austin even so much as touches me, he will be stripped of his title. And the only way this match will end is if this hand counts 1, 2, 3, or ring the bell because this guy submits. The only way this match will end is by my hand.
Interesting.
We move into the match. When I say the odds are stacked against Stone Cold, it's like the owner of the company is the special guest referee. The corporate stooges are the timekeeper and the ring announcer. And then Dude Love, who's in the pocket of all of them, is fighting for the championship. And so it seems like the deck could not be stacked any higher. And just when Stone Cold Steve Austin comes in, he looks like he's about to just be completely overwhelmed. The lights go out and the Undertaker's bell tolls. And he comes out as a special guest enforcer to make sure everything stays as above board as it could possibly be. So, Samee,
Yeah.
we watched In Your House Over the Edge. How did it feel?
It felt like Stone Cold had a deck stacked against him. Even in the beginning, the corporate knuckleheads give each other and Dude Love these super long-winded, unnecessary jerk-off introductions. And then when they get to Stone Cold, like, he starts flubbing and then's like, actually, I don't need to introduce a jerk. So he just, like, walks off. It's like, okay,
And
guys.
when Samee says long-winded jerk-off introductions, they mean it. It is
7
10 minutes.
each.
It is
Yeah.
10 minutes long of them just introducing each other. And then they're like, and by the way, like, Stone Cold's here. So then the match kicks off. And pretty quick into the match, Stone Cold gets a hold of Dude Love's fake teeth and he just stomps on it, which I thought was rude as hell, to be honest with you.
We have watched so much wrestling so far, and I think this is maybe the rudest and funniest thing we've seen. I can't believe it.
And just to clarify, we've seen at this point Cactus Jack get half of his ear ripped off. We've seen him get thrown off a ladder onto barbed wire. We've seen him
shove his hand into The Rock's mouth.
We've seen him get
mouth.
15 unprotected chair shots to the head. But Sammy's line was pulling out his fake teeth and getting them stomped on. That's it. That's too far for you.
It's just like, dental work is expensive. Dental work does humble you. Dental work, there's a little bit of vulnerability, I think, surrounding dental work, right? So he's got these new teeth and then...
Yeah, dental work. It's a great way to spend $3,000. I'll tell you that much.
And then to have Stone Cold just stomp on him. Oh my God.
And as he's strutting to the ring, he is very clearly being like, woo, look at the teeth.
My teeth.
Have mercy. And then Stone Cold's immediately like, bloop.
Just stomps hard. It's so funny.
The action spills outside of the ring, and they're fighting out there for so long that you see everybody kind of start to panic, and they're like, "Oh, this is a no count out match, just so you know, Stone Cold." And so they keep the match going. And I also just thought it was funny is while they're fighting on the outside of the ring, the Undertaker would just peer around corners as though he were some kind of creep, frankly. Like he was
Peeping Tom.
Yeah, he was just creeping in the background of all these shots, but not as a sinister creep, as a benevolent creep, if you will. The Undertaker was the people's creep that night.
I think his vibe during this really reminded me of when Samoa Joe was a special enforcer for Christian Cage and Kurt Angle in TNA, where he was like, around? It's like, what are you enforcing, dog?
It is funny. I do feel like the special guest enforcer is always a good plot point in theory, but then it is just sort of like, I'm going to have you hang out, and if something happens, and most of the time, whatever's going to happen isn't going to happen to the end of the match, so you just kind of have to stand out there and be like, well, okay, it looked like he was about to cheat, but I don't have to enforce anything, thank God.
I like how after a while they just cut to Undertaker to see what he was doing. Like, what's up? You okay with this? Okay.
Yeah, and he kind of just stand there like, okay.
No problem.
Not how I would have done it, but it's all right.
Still
Nothing
pretty fair.
Stone Cold can't handle for now. Undertaker, he's creeping around Samoa Joe style. At a certain point, the action gets back into the ring. Dude Love pops the mandible claw on Stone Cold Steve Austin. Austin throws him over the ropes, and once again, they hit the most horrifying visual where Mankind gets his head caught between the second and third rope. And this is very reminiscent of the exact spot where he lost his ear years earlier in ECW. Commentary even mentions that fact. This is like the third time we've seen him do this move. And this is 5 years after he loses his ear. Mm-hmm. And so I guess I just wanted to ask you, if you had a wrestling move that looked cool, but literally cost you your ear, would you keep doing it?
I would keep doing it. Hear me out.
Sure.
The first time was a mistake.
Okay.
Right? But now, if you continue to do it, you're not going to lose more of the ear. It's not a problem area anymore. You know what I mean? Like, you're maybe even safer.
Yeah, I'd kind of...
Like, chill.
lost my ear, and that pisses me off. So I just like wouldn't want to do it.
I mean, as we've revealed earlier, the only time that I'll like be really upset is if somebody takes my false teeth and stomps on them. Like, that's like the line. Everything else, really cool. We'll do it again.
I have one crown in my mouth, and if somebody stomped on that, I'd be like, "You dick!" I would be so mad. I would be unreasonably mad because it costs so much money.
It's cost so much money. It makes me feel real silly, but yeah, it's just my line is at tooth, so ear is totally fine. I will say though that the most exciting and interesting part of this one, now that we've kind of gotten used to this like horrifying image, is that Stone Cold really put him in that position pretty smooth and cool. You know what I mean? Like he had the mandible claw in there, and then he just kind of deposited Dude Love very calmly and smoothly right in there. I was like, all right, Stone Cold, you fucking rule, dog.
Very professional, very
Yeah.
professional. And so after he gets his head caught in between the ropes, he like manages to go back down. They're fighting on the outside of the ring some more. Dude Love throws Austin over an announce table, and things start getting heated. And once again, all the Stooges start to panic, and they're all looking around like, "What do we do?" And then you just hear over the mic, "Oh wait, this is actually a no DQ match." And so Dude Love is like, "Say less," and starts choking out Stone Cold Steve Austin with a TV camera cable. And so it's just as soon as it was like, "Oh, no DQ," he's like, "Oh, well, sick." He just starts
Those rules.
garroting Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Dude Love had to be the one in this match. Cactus Jack would have never been a corporate stooge. But during this match, I was like, why not Cactus Jack? This feels like the level of brutality that he should be doling out. But now I see what's going on now.
I wouldn't go so far as to say Dude Love is the perfect amalgamation. This aspect of Cactus Jack and this aspect of Mankind. I don't think it's quite that, but I do think it's closer to Cactus Jack than it is to Mankind, which...
Sure.
So I was just noticing some viciousness, some shades of Cactus Jack that kind of worked in this context, but they're fighting outside the ring, and now that it's no DQ, things start getting nuts. Stone Cold hits one of the craziest outside the ring clotheslines I've ever
It's
seen, where he
huge.
kind of clothesline. He's like at a weird angle, and he clotheslines Dude Love. He's over the guardrails, and he just runs and clotheslines Dude Love, who hits another set of guardrails, and so it just looks like it's on a very strange angle, and he hits him so hard, and it feels like Dude Love just does a full flip over the guardrails and hits the ground. It is so gnarly, dude.
Yeah, he hits him with that clothesline like kind of halfway up his rib cage instead of his throat, and then it's just game over. He's like cut him in half.
And then so they get heated. They start battling further and further away from the ring, and once again the Stooges panic, and they're like, also, this is a Falls Count Anywhere match. So the way this match started, it was going to be a regular singles match, and then they keep Playground Rules style being like, "Oh, actually, it's no DQ. It's no count out. It's Falls Count Anywhere." So they keep moving the goalpost as the match continues to get crazier and crazier.
And thank goodness they let everybody know that it's a Falls Count Anywhere match, because Stone Cold and Dude Love get closer and closer to the Over the Edge set, which is basically a, like, I don't know, junkyard motif. So there are like several broken down cars like that have been spray painted with nonsense. And Stone Cold and Dude Love, once they're back over there, start pinballing each other between those broken down cars until the loved one finds a scary looking pole to smash on Stone Cold's forehead, cutting him open. So now the Texas Rattlesnake is pissed, and he throws Dude Love all the way back into the ring, where one of the corporate stooges feeds Dude Love a chair through the ropes. And we're treated with a few unprotected chair shots, and when Stone Cold gets the chair, he turns and swings an impossibly hard swing at the side of Dude Love's head. So Dude is down. All three personalities of Mick Foley are down. But the owner of the company refuses to count the pin. He's just standing there like, no, I don't think so. And so Dude tries to take advantage of that distraction and ends up pasting the owner of the company in the head with a chair. A new ref tries to count out a pin after Stone Cold stuns Dude Love, but the special guest announcer pulls that new ref out of the ring. Dude Love shoves his hand in Stone Cold's mouth for a mandible claw, and the special guest announcer tries to count a pin, but that's when The Undertaker makes his move. He finally interferes and tombstones the guest announcer through an announce table.
Yeah, he's like, special guest announce this, crush.
Boom! Meanwhile, in the ring, Dude is on top of Stone Cold still, and the guest timekeeper tries to count that pin out, but The Undertaker takes his ass out of the ring and tombstones him through the other announce table. So we have all Stooges out.
The Stooges are done, dude.
Stone Cold now stuns Dude Love again. He drags the guest referee's unconscious body over and counts his own pin with the ref's limp hand. The same ref's hand who famously said, "This match will be decided by my hand and only my hand."
The deck could not have been stacked higher against Stone Cold Steve Austin, and through all of the shenanigans with 2 well-placed tombstones from The Undertaker to assist him, he's able to maintain the WWF Championship again. And things are going great for Stone Cold, but this spells trouble for Dude Love. And so the next night, June 1st, 1998, on the follow-up episode of Monday Night Raw, for failing to capture the WWF title from Stone Cold Steve Austin, Dude Love is fired. But that very same episode, the Masked Mankind returns.
Oh, thank goodness.
And if you want to know how that goes, we did a whole episode about Mankind.
We sure did.
Okay, so getting into the epilogue here, Samee. Listening to Foley speak about Dude Love on his podcast, I think it's pretty clear that he had a great time portraying the character. But by the time they got to Over the Edge 1998, I think Foley felt that Dude Love just wasn't connecting with the fans in the same way that Cactus Jack or Mankind had. And he was worried that he tanked his own credibility by asking the fans to, he was just like stretching what he felt like was plausible for his wrestling character at that time. So getting them to buy into Cactus Jack, Mankind, Dude Love, bouncing between all 3. And now we've got this corporate Dude Love. He felt like he was asking too much of the fans. He thought that this was going to basically be the end of Mick Foley in the WWE. He kind of thought, yeah, this is it. This is where it ends for me. And 3 weeks after that episode of Monday Night Raw, Mankind faces The Undertaker in a Hell in a Cell match at King of the Ring, where he becomes a fucking legend.
That is an incredible turnaround and just a wild thing to think that, just mere weeks before he solidified himself into wrestling history, he was like, I think my career is over. Which was like, that's the interesting part about Dude Love. It's like, before we got into the research of it all, I actually thought that this run with Dude Love was like an end of career type situation. Like right when, Mankind was slow, or Mick Foley, the man, was slowing down a little bit, and owner of the company was like, let's do some wish fulfillment for you on your way out. Like, that's what I thought. And to know that Dude Love came in, like, I don't know, a year, 2 years after Mankind debuted was a little surprising to me. I feel like it was kind of maybe they jumped the shark a little bit.
That's interesting. I almost feel almost the exact opposite way, because what we know about Mick Foley, Mankind, now, everything we know about him that we were huge fans of, that all happened in 99, 2000. And so I think you don't get that goofy, relatable version of Mankind if he didn't have a chance to work out that Dude Love character to just be a little more himself, a little bit more relatable, to show people, this is what I look like without the mask. This is who I can be. I can be goofy. I can be funny. I can be silly. I can be scary like Cactus Jack. I can be all of those things. So when he puts the mask back on as Mankind, 1, he does an incredible Hell in a Cell match, but then 2, he's shown so many dimensions of his character that by the time we get to 99, 2000, again, this guy's in Chef Boyardee commercials. People really like this guy. He's on Boy Meets World. He's a household name. He's a hot commodity. And I feel like you don't get that version of Mankind without Dude Love. And so I think Dude Love is probably the least fleshed out of the three characters, but I do think he was very necessary in the growth of Mick Foley, the legend that we all know him to be. I think that's what got him to the upper echelon.
You've given me some things to chew on as far as without Dude Love, we don't get Chef Boyardee Mankind. And I appreciate that. I'm not 100% convinced because I feel like maybe, just maybe, Dude Love shouldn't have been introduced to the mainstream at all. Kind of in the same sense of like never meet your heroes. Maybe it's like,
don't be the creator wrestler you came up with when you were 16. Yeah, that's a good cautionary tale.
We both got so excited when we knew that it was going to be Cactus Jack versus Hunter, right? And I feel like just being those two characters could have been it. But yeah, that stuff that you're saying about like how Dude Love introduced us to Mick, like literally his face and the silliness that comes with that sense of humor that we saw presented to us by the brothers Penis, giving me a lot of thought. I do enjoy Dude Love. I'm not knocking on him at all. I think it's a really fun character from 1985 and 1997. I do wish that Mick ended up getting that tattoo. So in the 1985, the loved one, he has this heart on him, and he talks about eventually getting that tattoo when he was doing the interview with JR as Mankind. I really wish he got it. It would have been cool.
I agree with you. I think Dude Love could have found more solid legs because, you know, we have 10 years of Mankind for credibility. We have 10 years of Cactus Jack for credibility, and we only have 1 year of Dude Love. So
Sure.
I do think he didn't necessarily have time to find the intricacies of what makes Dude Love before he got folded back in and became Mankind again. I trust Mick Foley to have gotten there, but I also trust his instinct to be like, you know, we did it for a year, and I just don't think it connected in the same way that my darker, more dangerous personas do, and I would much rather be those characters. He had more of a connection to them. I think he did the right thing. Samee.
Yeah.
We are almost at the end of our month-long exploration of Mick Foley, the character. And I think what we're going to do for our very last episode is there are just a couple of matches and storylines that me and Samee are just personally interested in, but they didn't exactly fit into the episodes we've done so far. So we're going to end our month of Mick Foley by diving headfirst into some later career Mick Foley matches that we both found super interesting. So we hope you will tune in and see him go through a flaming table. Teaser.
Look, I am not making this promise, but maybe I will look for all of the Chef Boyardee commercials and break them down. Who knows?
Who knows? But until then, we just want to thank you for listening to Wrestling Academy, hosted, produced, and edited by me, Michael Classic, and you, Samee Junio. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, at Wrestling Academy Pod. You can send us an email at wrestlingacademypod@gmail.com.
Follow, rate, and leave a positive review wherever you get your podcast, but check out Spotify where we have Q&As or polls for every episode. And please, if you have any information on Ween Kid, go to our website, wrestlingacademy.university, to send in an anonymous tip or call the Ween Kid tip line and leave us a voicemail at 708-669-4512. Class is dismissed.
Ow!
Ow! I do declare. Ow.